Hey, welcome to the podcast. Andrew Costello, the owner and founder of ACG Arenas. It's a visionary concept. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk about it. This will be the first time I talk about it in a public forum, so it's very
Brilliant.
exciting.
Hey, listen, first time's a charm, right? But here's the thing. I I need to be just completely transparent about this. We're actually working together
Mhm.
in the capacity of me helping you as a funding partner get the money that you need to build this concept out and take it to the next level. So this is going to be an interesting talk because I actually know a lot about your business. So we're going to be covering some ground already covered, already trodden, I should say. But like we've got, I think there's a lot to talk about in regards to the how interesting your concept is, the value proposition for it, and where it's going to potentially go in the future. Because there's so much that you can take advantage of. Because you've got not only the concept of something that could be beneficial from a digital standpoint. There's lots of opportunities there, but also from a physical standpoint, because you're looking at a place you can actually host. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop because
Mhm.
I'm about to start summarizing your business. I think it's better if you do that. Andrew, why
Okay,
don't you tell us what ACG Arenas is all about?
awesome. So ACG Arenas, ACG is an acronym, and it stands for All Console Gaming. And we are going to be an indoor arcade and entertainment, basically amusement park. We will have 15 unique attractions that range from indoor airsoft all the way to indoor skydiving and virtually everything in between. Um, and our goal is to bring indoor arcading into the 21st century. Right now, the way of doing indoor arcading, though we've got some really cool upgraded technology, the way that sites are still doing them, it's very archaic. The prize accumulation system, the games that are used, we're ready. I think everyone is ready for the next step in evolution for it, and that's what ACG is. Um,
Yeah,
and
it's
we're
like
very
you find
excited
that
about
they're
it.
siloed a lot, right?
I'm sorry.
Like a lot of these experiences are for the in many cases, just from from my own experiences, they're siloed. So you have, like you said, indoor skydiving would be a business in and of itself at one
Right.
location, and then you have airsoft in and of itself at one location, and you kind of have to cherry pick and choose, and you're kind of bringing it all together, but you're merging it with like cutting edge technology. You're looking, we've had conversations about the metaverse. We've had
Right.
conversations about the various types of gamification elements that you can put into the in-house experience and the experience that people have outside of the venue itself. Like, why don't
Right.
you talk about how we're kind of making that merge happen?
Yeah, so like you said, right now, if you were to go to any of those other entertainment venues, you'll be lucky if you can find some that have maybe three or four under one roof. One of the companies that's within our industry, they're on the east coast of the United States. They're called Andretti, and they're an indoor go kart place. They've got a VR, some laser tag, and an arcade, and they're doing really great things. But usually, three or four is about what all you're going to find under one roof. We are bringing everything under one roof, and like you said, merging technology with physical so that we can really update the experiences. And we've actually over the last 6 years made partnerships with respectively some of the top dogs within each of those respective industries to provide the very best of the experiences, technology and physically, all in one space. And one of my favorite things about what we're doing is, unlike our competition, we are adopting a one and done pricing model. So when you walk into any of our competition, you're going to have to pay for each individual attraction. Sometimes they do bundled deals. Ours is going to be like an amusement park where you pay for general admission and you have all day access to everything we have. And even if you stayed all day, you probably wouldn't be able to try everything that we have because there's just so much. And within each respective attraction, there's a lot to do.
Like you've got
And so that,
the events for each one, like the
I'm
events
sorry.
for each one, like events for each one, competitions for
Yes.
each one. Like you
Hmm.
can kind of like create that that give people that competitive edge essentially to become the best at what they are. I remember you were telling me in the very first phone call, it's like, the airsoft, for instance, like you're pretty good on
Hmm.
with airsoft, and you're going to create some kind of tournaments, if anything, as well.
Yep.
And then, so
Yeah,
there's
we're
like, it's
virtually
like there's so
creating our
much
own
to
sport.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's like there's so much to do. It's like you're like the super mall, like the mega mall, bringing it all in house. And I feel like there's so many of these types of businesses that have failed due to COVID. like,
Hmm.
like these physical locations that had to close down, and the owners of those businesses crippled financially. And then I think what's happening is now you're going to be able to take advantage of the new wave of the relaunch, essentially,
Right.
where you aren't encumbered with all that debt or loss of business. And I think this is a great opportunity for you to ride that wave. I think
Yeah.
you're
And
perfectly
the
poised
industry
for it.
is hurting. The industry is hurting for something new to come along because right now the ones that did survive COVID, they predate COVID, so all of their ways of operating have just been the way it's been. And me personally, I fundamentally disagree with this statement. We do things this way because it's how it's always been done. It is time
Yeah,
for indoor arcading to evolve. And one of the ways that we are doing that is through our prize accumulation. Most places, if you were to go, you can only win prizes off of playing the arcade games, and you have to buy a certain number of tokens or tickets. They apply it to a card, and you play until those are done. And you're lucky if for $50 you can play for an hour and a half. And again, if you're lucky or really good at that ball drop game, hitting the jackpot all the time, you can maybe get enough to, buy a pencil with a cool eraser or one of those little plastic frogs that you can hop across your desk. And in some cases, those who save up their coins and their points really well can get some of those cooler prizes. But we're doing it in a vastly different way to where just by being inside the facility, if you have our app, which is in development, you will be constantly earning experience points. Every different attraction you do will apply experience points to your profile or your avatar, and then you save up those experience points from doing everything: escape rooms, indoor skydiving, mini golf, that don't usually apply to the indoor arcade prize section. And you can then get real world applicable prizes. One of the things that we're very, very excited about is that there will be an actual attainable avenue for people to win cars by simply coming and having a good time. And that's one of the things that we are really truly very excited about, is that we're not only changing the way that arcading is done, but we're taking the prize part of it, the prize acumen part of that, and just turning it on its head and making
I
it
love
real.
that. I've got a book here. I'm going to grab it real quick. I, I was as I'm talking to you and I'm looking at this screen, and it caught my eye. I was like, hang on a sec, how come I hadn't brought this up earlier, right? This is a book. I recommend you getting it. Actionable Gamification by UK Chow. As you can tell, I've really gone through this book. This
Yeah.
book is awesome. I was trying to like learn everything that there is to learn about gamification and put it into
Hmm.
like my software product, right? I've shown you it before, right? Distro list. This
Hmm.
this is has I mean I there's so many strategies and tactics in here that I'm like looking at how can I put this into my software plan. But this thing applies to everything. It's physical locations, just business in general, and how to use elements of gamification to make people want to, I guess, make whatever it is that you're doing more sticky, right? Like to
Hmm.
make it more like people just want to stay with you and do more with it.
Right.
It taps into, he has this pretty cool octalysis framework, where he looks into like what he calls the core drivers, like meaning, empowerment, social influence, unpredictability, avoidance, scarcity, ownership, and accomplishments. Right here on the front cover. I don't know if that's going to get picked up there in the camera.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. I would, as you're speaking, and there's get actionable gamification beyond points, badges, and leaderboards, to really basically delve into like what makes people tick and how you can implement those gamified strategies within business. I think that like every area of your business, this model, this concept, you could basically make almost like so desirable that and tap into so many of these core drivers like unpredictability, like the slot machines example, like ownership and achievement, like getting those points and getting those badges and getting on those leaderboards and that the competitive edge. Like I can see
Hmm.
just you just I could see you going through this kind of a material and sort of like plugging little bits into every area of your business.
Hmm.
When did you come up with the idea for all this, man? Like this, I know
Uh,
you've been obsessing for it for a long time.
Yeah, so it originated June 6th of 2019. And it started out with just a new way to play airsoft. Because right now, when you go and play airsoft, you're going to bring your equipment or rent from the facility that you go to. And it's you and whoever else is playing in an open arena. And yeah, they'll do little scenarios, but you're playing against other people. that have come in off the streets to just run these scenarios. And that's great, and it has its time and its place, and it's been doing wonders. I love airsoft. um, but what we're going to do is we're really flipping it on its head, and we're going to run our airsoft. So instead of it being 30, 40 people in a mad dash for whatever the scenario is, it'll be, let's say you and four of your friends come in to play a mission. So you've got a team of five. You come in, and in kind of like a restaurant order form, you pick what mission you want to play. And then you don't play against other people who are there. You play against the house, who is specifically trained to run this mission. And so it's almost like living a live action first person shooter game. And we have storyboard that are going along with it. The maps and the missions will change every quarter. So if you come to us in the first quarter, say in February, and then you take some time off and you come back in June, you're not going to get the same maps. You're not going to get the same game. And you and your team can actually move through the story. And one of the tournament styles that we're doing is there will be a whole bunch of like, what's the terms I'm looking for? Scores that will be applied for like time completed, accuracy, stealth that was achieved, most time gone unseen, things like that, to allow teams to take leaderboards. And if you're on the top of the leaderboard for an entire quarter, you get a boost in experience points. All of our players will be able to, because streaming your gameplay is huge. All of our players, their safety helmets and their masks will be equipped with GoPros, so that they will actually be able to download their gameplay and stream it to whatever their fan base is. Or if they want to start their fan base, they can bring their live action first person shooter game to life on their streaming platforms.
That's awesome. And I'm visualizing this right now as you're saying it. And like, so that sounds great and it sounds cool. You're taking that local experience outside as well, so people can consume it, you can share. And I'm starting to get visions of also like where you go from there, how you get further, like just from your website. So if anyone hasn't been there, I mean, this is very, very new. So if anyone's watching this is interested, check out acgarenas.com. First thing you'll see up there is some kind of Oculus vision, Metaverse tapped. Could you see, I mean, is this going to be people with airsoft guns with not just a mask, but to be able to look into some kind of AR or perhaps even VR Metaverse experience?
So our VR wing is completely separate from our airsoft experience, but our VR wing we've actually partnered with, and we have an NDA signed, so unfortunately I cannot disclose who they are at this point. But we've partnered with one of the quickest growing and most innovative VR companies in the nation of the United States. And we're very excited about that. So that will be an area where people can go and they can do a little more of like the zombie hunts or the VR and the AR stuff. So yes, we will have an experience for that as well. The airsoft is going to be more augmented reality, because we also have partnered with a company to do special effects. So where I don't know if you have ever played like Call of Duty or Army of Two, and you've got those missions where like things are blowing up and falling over, and our arenas will actually be equipped with very safe and protected pyrotechnics, faux explosions, special effects, moving walls, all kinds of things. We've got an animatronics company that we're working with, because part of our storyline is actually going to take place off world. So we have a whole bunch of cool stuff happening there. So our airsoft facility is more augmented reality, but we do have a VR facility that will allow people to stretch the imagination even further within the bounds of first-person shooter games and software that's out there.
That's brilliant. Conceptually, I think it's cool. I'm not. I should say. I was about to say I'm a gamer. I'm not a gamer anymore, just because I have zero time for it. But I used to be, and I can see the value here, and I can see how much I feel the pull. Like I'd love to be involved with, as a consumer with it too. But the concept is good, and I could see it, being put once you've got everything together. Because right now, a lot of this is concept, a lot of this is planning, a lot of this is collaborations. You're putting together right now with those. With the people with regard to the metaverse and the various different technologies, the app developers and everything. So you're kind of piecing everything together to make this thing a reality, right? And
Correct.
It's really on its track to become that. And so let's kind of switch and talk about what you're doing to actually create. I mean, this is essentially why we're working together, because I'm helping you with this side of things. But
Hmm.
how are you where have you gone? So what's point A? Where was point A when you had the idea? Like, what was the first couple of steps you did to kind of like get access, either whether or not it was for funding, or whether it was just to get the collaborations in place to kind of get other people in on your idea so that you can start
Right.
to realize, make it a reality? What was that
So
process looking like?
So point A was actually to talk with friends and family about the different ideas that I had with regards to the idea, to just see, if they thought that it could be enjoyable. Because if I can't sell friends and family on it, I'm not going to be able to sell total strangers on it. And one of the things I realized very early on is that people are hungry for something that's different. They're hungry for stuff that's unique. And especially when you can bring unique and different and pair that with state of the art and affordability, everyone wants it. So from there, it was then reaching out to the different manufacturers, doing my due diligence, finding those who have built a reputation for themselves in manufacturing of the products that I would be using, so that when I go and say, hey, we will only deliver top tier stuff, I can do that with confidence because I'm partnering with companies who have a track record and have established themselves in their respective industries for delivering top tier things. And then that just became a simple reach out, like a call, and hey, I'm working on this business venture and I'd like to set up a time to chat with whoever's in charge of this so that we can discuss it. And it just went from there, talking with the airsoft manufacturers so that we could acquire everything on wholesale instead of resale because we got to protect our bottom line. Um, but then also making sure that they would also be comfortable having their name on our as part of our partnership. And we actually have exclusivity partnerships with quite a few of the businesses that we're working with. Not that they're exclusive to us, but that we will be exclusive to them in return for the quality and discount that they're giving us. Because we talked about
All very
capital
important
raise,
stuff.
all very important
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, we talked about capital raise, and we don't need a small number. We need about 30 million, and that's it's a lot of money. And so basically what it was just talking to them about what kind of discounts could we get. And if someone listening to this, and I hope nobody does, but if someone listening to this was like, oh, I like that idea, I wonder if I could beat him to it. And they started doing that without the relationships that I've cultivated over the last 6 years, I've gotten it down to 30 million. That's not where it started. Originally, when I was just looking at coming in off the street, just buying from them as any other company without any exclusivity agreements or negotiating on prices or things like that and building those partnerships, it would be close to 50 or 60 million because I have gotten a lot of them to come in at about 50%. But in return, they will be the only ones that we use as we grow. And we have a very aggressive expansion plan over the next 12 to 15 years of operation to have over 316 locations nationwide within the United States so that everyone across the country can have equal access to the newness that we're bringing, because not only are we bringing a consumer product that is different and unique and state of the art, but we're also bringing an employment opportunity to the market that is unlike anything within the industry. The national average right now for income in the United States is about 36,000 a year, and it's been a couple months since I checked it, so that may have fluctuated by a couple thousand here or there. But our starting rate is 60,000 a year for every employee, from the janitor up to me. So that everyone can be obtaining a livable wage while having a good time doing it. And while we're on the employment side, if I may ramble on a little longer, we are implementing the gig economy style, like Uber, DoorDash, Lyft, those places that allow you to work when you want. We will have shifts available for people to work that have their, instead of a per hour rate, it's a, hey, if you work this shift, this is what this shift is paying. And so people can be like, because I don't know everyone's financial needs. I know mine is different than my neighbors, and theirs is different than our neighbors across the way. Everyone has their own financial needs. And so what we're doing is we're creating a roadmap for people to truly be in charge of their own financial trajectory and allow them to build a perfect work-life balance. And so if, let's say, you need, $1,000 a week, our shifts start at 250. You work 4 shifts, which are less than 8 hours a day. So you're working less than full time, making $1,000 a week. You multiply that out by a year, that's 52,000. Plus your benefits that you get, you're making 70 to 75,000 a year off your benefits and your salary. And one of the really cool things is, again, with those partnerships, I didn't just stop at the manufacturing or supplier partnerships. I've made partnerships with some pretty big name benefits companies, like New York Life and Aflac, to provide our employee benefits all at no cost to the employee. And all they have to do to get all of that is work a minimum of 4 shifts a week. But if they want more than that, they can get more than that. If they want less than that, they can work less than that. And we're doing the benefits acumen on a quarterly basis. So if there's one week that you can't work any shifts, you're not going to lose your benefits if you can hit the quota for shifts for the quarter. And so you could theoretically get all of your income, all of your benefits resources done in a month and take 2 months off if you had the ability or desire to.
You're going to have some happy employees. Yeah. I mean,
that's the goal, because happy employees,
yeah,
they're going to deliver a really good experience for our customers, and happy customers make repeat customers. So if we take care of our employees, they're going to take care of our consumers, which in turn will take care of us, and everyone can truly win, all by simply providing a route that allows everyone to do what they need or what they want.
absolutely. And so this is good, but here's the thing. Out of that 30 million, because this is a good question. Out of that 30 million that you know you're going to be raising, how much of it do you need to get like the first location? Like what would it take for your MVP equivalent, the minimal viable product?
Right.
Because there's a couple of roads that we've been discussing. It's like leasing a spot, getting the equipment in there. There's a price associated with that and the staffing. Or do you go for buying a location, making it more attractive to investors because now there's a real estate angle to the opportunity? We're kind of working on ideas ourselves, but we can explore them here. These are good conversations to have.
Right.
What would you think? And I know these are ballpark figures. We don't have to pull out the pro forma right now. But what would you say is like your minimum?
So we have it broken down in phases, because I understand that 30 million is a big number, and sometimes we need proof of concept. So phase 1, that allows us to lease a building and start with 3 of our attractions, which is Airsoft, laser tag, and our video game center, is 7.5 million. And that gives us the capital to take care of payroll. It allows us to take care of a leasing spot, and it allows us to outfit us with those 3 attractions to start generating a small revenue to prove to those investors, like, look, our concept is good. People like this, they want this, which will help put money towards it. Now, if we were looking towards buying a building, obviously that takes it up a notch. Because buying real estate, especially in Southern California, the particular space that I was looking at is a town center in Simi Valley, and its current property value is 27.5 million. So if we were to buy that, that's basically our entire capital raise that we're looking at, all in just one space. So that would basically double what we're looking at to raise if we were to buy a building. Now, again, I'd love to own the building, but then there's also revenue being generated from the other leasing spaces from the town center, which is currently 85% occupied, which is great, because if we can pull off buying it, that would be even better for everybody.
It's interesting because I know we've had this conversation already, but I did want to shed that light, because you have, like, a lot of people have the same, I think it's a bit of a misconception. Like, you see, it's actually easier in this scenario to raise the 30 plus million if there's a real estate opportunity in play, because it's almost like the insurance policy to the investor, because if you're buying it outright, or even if it's a 50% down payment with the other 15 mil used for the operation for the build out of the business, there's still kind of like, as long as you're giving them first lien or first charge on the property, for instance, okay, it depends. You've got bank situation, but there's ways in which you can organize that structure. But it becomes more attractive, and people are, you could run, for instance, a convertible note for the 7.5 and get that pretty quick. But to the same investors who would go in for it on a convertible note. If there was real estate, they'd come in for a lot more. Like you could have like a $2,000 or $3,000 minimum on a convertible, maybe 20,000. But then suddenly when it's a real estate play, suddenly people are coming in at like 150K, 200 grand. And so getting to that 30 million isn't as actually as hard as you think it is. And sometimes it's really just about like structuring the business. And that's, we've been chopping this up. I know we have been chopping this up and exploring all these different opportunities. And we haven't even fully landed on one yet. I think we're still exploring, but we're working on like taking the steps in the right direction so that you can actually start cap raising in the right way. So whether it's going to be a convertible note private placement in with a Reg D sort of real estate offering, or if it's going to be something like crazy, like you want to start with a Reg CF, or like you just start. But I think Reg CF is just messy. That's
well, let's not go.
You have to manage. Yeah, Reg CF is like, look, it has its use case. It does. I just find there's a lot of people who are not accredited in them who you have to deal with that can invest one day and then immediately want to pull their money out later. You want to be in a situation where you have some longer term investors on with you, because this is a build out. You've got a big plan here. This isn't a small little app that's being put together with a hopeful entrepreneur. This is, you're looking at like location, you're looking at employees, salaries and benefits, you're looking at infrastructure, you're looking at the digital support frameworks that you need to operate the business internally, and then of course the stuff that you need for your consumers to be happy, the customer experience. And because there's so many bells and whistles with this type of operation, and we haven't even spoken about the marketing yet. Like the marketing costs that are going to go into this are going to be significant. But then you've got your typical return on your return on an ad spend and that kind of thing in terms of how much you're spending on marketing versus how much you're getting in. Have you like I know we've covered a lot of this, but like can you give some insight as to like how you're if you're going to phase out the operation side of the business, and you were to have the real estate, whether it was a lease or whether it was bought and paid for, how you would then take those first steps, like how you would start driving in those customers?
Right. So right now we're actually in the process of setting up several community events within the city that we're in. We're working with the Chamber of Commerce within the city that we're in to do some street fairs. We've got all of our social media prepped. We're going to start doing a big social media push on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, the big three. And then from there, it's going to be, we're going to see if we can't start a membership drive. And with that, memberships, once we're open, come with a myriad of benefits that are immediately paid for after the first benefit. But if anyone, excuse me, for those who joined us early, we have extra benefits in line for those because we know we don't have a facility yet. So if you become a member before we have a facility, there's actually another 3 to 5 tiers of benefits that you have access to. And so we're going to really start to push that within our community engagement. We have a couple prototypes that we want to do some community events with. One of them is called a Flash Pad, which is kind of like a larger version of Dance Dance Revolution mixed with puzzles. And you can do it with a group of people or by yourself. And so we're just going to go out and rub elbows with the community and just to start sharing what is coming to the town and to the nation over the next.
Collecting interest. I mean, you've got the pre-sale element, getting the interest there. It's, also the viability. It's like proof of concept. And then you've also got, if you're pre-selling, that's fantastic, because pre-selling is like, as far as investors are concerned, to be able to show that, hey, we've already sold. I mean, this is like an Elon Musk tactic, right? Right. It's like he does it amazingly well, but it's a very simple concept to understand. It's just basically selling beforehand, before you've got the thing.
Yep.
And if you can drive in as much money as you can just on pre-sales with these massive discounts for getting people in early, to an investor, that's going to be extremely positive. It's like, if you can imagine yourself in the investor's shoes, like, okay, so how do I know this is going to make money? Because the investor's mindset is to like park money with you, right? It's like they want to put $5 with you today and then come back a week later and pick up $10. It's a very lazy sort of. It's the armchair investor, right? It's they kind of want to just move money in, wait a little while, come back and pick it up. And I hope that there's more there to pick up, ideally, or at least sit where at least break even. There's like track inflation, if anything, and just so they don't lose anything. That's kind of like the
Right.
nightmare is to actually lose the money, right? So,
Right.
but even then, some people have a tolerance for risk and they go for the more risky options. I mean, that you can, again, we've spoken about mitigating that by going into like the real estate area, because you're tying the investment to the value of an asset and it can climb. But there's always, you never know what's happening with real estate bubbles, how long the business is going to, can it survive them, whether it's a storm, because we're in like a mini recession, we're going to go into like a big, I mean, there's so much going on there. But if you're able to demonstrate profit and people say, I want to throw money at this thing and they haven't even built it yet, that's going to be an incentive, a big incentive to get someone over the line.
Right.
I think, and I think that's definitely always the way to go.
Right. And we actually have a lot of interest at the moment. We just haven't started accepting pre-sales yet. But we have interest in just the general community. We have interest within public figures. Like I said, we were working with the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm going to share some of their words. They are not my words. The city planner, in their words, said, we need this because it's something that can really, one, it's going to bring jobs to the city. It's going to boost the economy within our local community, and we're going to be able to tie into the Los Angeles tourist market. We're right off a freeway. There's a whole bunch of things we're tying into. And because I forgot to mention this before when we were talking about raises, we're actually working with a company that is helping us go through the Global Impact Grant. And so we're working on that to bring in some extra money to kind of soften the blow, as it were, with needing money from investors. So we're
grant funding.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
I am trying to hit every avenue I can: pre-sales, grants, investor money. We have raised about 150,000 between friends and family that have allowed us to get this far with, the prototypes. Our app is now in development, all kinds of really cool things that are happening. And all because we didn't put all of our eggs in one basket saying, oh, we'll just look for investors. We're hitting every avenue for sources of income to generate it for the business.
Yeah. I mean, because there's so many different ways, right? I mean, we help with lending, we help with the credit side of things, BLOCs, like business lines of credits, and different types of, there's actually a myriad of different ways or different lending options out there that you can use without giving up equity. And then of course there is the typical sort of the convertible note, which your hope doesn't convert, or sometimes just strategically you do want it to convert, but where you are giving a significant APR. But then you are, there's a risk of like moving into an equity share. But again, all within, it's not like selling equity is bad. Selling equity is good. Especially when people are giving you the lifeblood to build the thing out to make it profitable. And then you also have, your standard raises, right? Your Reg D 506, and how you actually go ahead and solicit and market those things to generate the interest. And then you're speaking to people with big money, right? So, those conversations, it's like almost like you want to build up that Rolodex, right? To have a ton of options, but you do want your hand in a few cookie jars, especially at the early stages of your business. Because you don't know, like, you could sit there working with one VC company, a boutique VC, and they'll take you around the garden path, and they'll have you in tons of negotiations and conversations that will span 6 to 12 months, and then you won't actually get anywhere because they pull a plug on you at the very end.
Right.
Soul destroying kind of situation.
And
so you have to have your option.
Yeah, and we're on track at the moment to have our first location open by next year. So as long as, like you said, we're working together, and as long as we can stay on this track, when we're talking at this time next year, it will be because you're visiting Southern California and I'm showing you the facility that we built out.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got so many different options available, like to get you to the mark. I mean, leasing a spot, like how much is leasing a spot?
So right now, the spot that we're looking at goes for $1.67 a square foot for the year, and we're looking at 175,000 square feet, so just under a cool $500,000.
Wonder if you could get like an event space and kind of do like a retrofit, like a temporary short-term retrofit. I'm just thinking about this now, like not as proof of concept, but just kind of to launch it almost as an event with like a scaled down version of all the different opportunities in there with the promise of everything else in the new location. Like, what if it was
Right.
done initially like an event?
And we probably could, especially now that we're working with the Chamber of Commerce in the city that we're in, um, which I don't know if I've said that yet, is Simi Valley, California. Um, we probably could, because the location that we're trying to get to has massive parking lot spaces that aren't actively being used on a regular basis. So we could probably set up like a pop-up airsoft mission for a weekend, or a pop-up laser tag, or just all
Yeah.
kind. We could do a whole bunch of things that we could do, and
And they
since
could be
we're in the
profitable
process,
too. They
right?
could be
Because,
really
and then we've got
profitable.
proof of concept right there.
Proof of concept, you've got money coming in. I was thinking about that as throughout this conversation. I was like, I wonder if you could like start phase this with adding something extra as like a almost like a fail safe as a way to prove concept, but also to have it make money right now, and also tap
Hmm.
into other lending opportunities. You've got the big cap raise where it's whether it's 7.5 or it's 30 or more, which would probably be more if it's going real estate, because that will just cover the cost of the real estate.
Right.
Um, but I mean, there's things that you can do where but without getting too much into the weeds, you know, starting smaller can also be good too. I mean, you can use, like I mentioned, credit lines, which I know that you've had some experience with already. But then you've got
Hmm.
credit stacking, where you can tap into multiple credit cards to access the money that you need to basically potentially rent a spot temporarily to run an event. And of
Hmm.
course, jump into like the business lines of credit as well, which can get you up to maybe 300 grand, maybe even 500,000, depending on what we could probably show. So it's like these options, getting you from couple of 100,000 to the 500,000 mark could probably get you some events going,
Right.
and get that buzz going, and that
And
kind of
already,
feeding in.
yeah. So I mentioned the flash pad earlier. We already have some events lined up with the city, but we're tying those into our membership drive. So we're not going to charge people for using the flash pad itself. It'll just be like a, hey, look at this really cool attraction that we're going to have. By the way, if you want to become a member early before we go, so we already have some events coming up that we're already working on. Um, but I have my strategy meeting with my team in 5 days. So we can absolutely talk about what it would look like to do something like that. I mean, I'm sure we could find somebody with some land and um, throw up a quick airsoft match to show them what it would be like. Because
Yeah,
I completely forgot to mention this earlier. Have you ever watched a lot of spy movies, like, and where they like press the button and the doors open up and it's
absolutely.
just wall to wall weapons? So
Yeah,
one of the cool things that are, I think it's really cool, because when I close my eyes, I can visualize it. But where there's a space, after you pick your mission, you go into a room where you're going to be debriefed, and then the walls are going to open up, and it will be that quintessential spy room with walls on wall to walls from floor to ceiling. Each wall is going to be a different. There will be special, primary, secondary, extra clips, things like that, and you get to build your own loadout. So it's not like you walk in and say, "Okay, here's your stuff." You have no choice in the gear that you get. You actually get full customizable choice for the gear that you're using, so that if you're doing a mission that requires more stealth, you can pick more things that are on the stealthy side. If you're picking a mission that requires you to fight more people, you can pick the weapons that have bigger clip sizes. You can take extra clips, and you can actually design your team to be exactly what you need or want for the mission you're doing. And I'm a huge nerd, and I just love the idea of seeing the wall open up and just seeing wall to wall airsoft weapons. And we've got all kinds of things like the airsoft grenades, the riot shields, and not just like like the pump spring ones. No, we're talking like the full electric, the ARs that you can adjust the FPS on, which is foot per second. And just really lay into the customizability of it, and just the
the fun
uniqueness
of
of
it.
it,
You're
because
stepping into your own armory. It's like I
yeah.
can see that experience. It's like okay, you're ready to go. I can see people just getting ready and hyped up, and it's okay. Now go to the armory. You go step into the wall, or
And
the
that's actually
electric
what we're calling it.
wardrobe.
We're calling it the
Right.
Armory.
There you go, the armory. Right, you're in there now, and it's like someone saying, "Okay, what would you like, sir? Madam, what about this?" It's like handing you the weapon. Like, yes, I think this could be fun. Um,
Hmm.
it's like that. Look, that's fun. That is point blank. Period.
Right.
That's
You
fun.
get an experience
Um,
before the experience.
Yeah, the whole thing is like this awesome journey. I mean, you go home thinking about that and wanting to go back and telling your friends about it and joining. And of course, if you've got the online experience too, you now can tap into it. You're streaming it. It's you got everything going for this, man. And I can just see I can see it's almost when I say fail proof, because I say fail proof because you're so passionate about this. So I know that whether it is this massive real estate position that we go with, where you're going to have this big, turn this whole town center into a town hall into an opportunity where you're going to have all the bells and whistles. It's going to be this big major event, or whether it's going to be a lease project, and you're working with a certain term, and you're building everything out so the experience is going to be the same for people, or you're going to be doing these smaller siloed experiences, like in prelude to the big thing that's going to come, and drive up the desire, get everyone backing you. I can see it. No matter what variation of this business, it's going to be a success because
Yeah.
you've been at this. How long did we say for how long? We didn't actually put a year on it because I know you said it was years.
Yeah, so 2009, middle of 2019 is when this originated. So we're in middle of 2024. So we got 19 to 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. We're in our 6th year, but I've been working on it for 5 years.
Yeah.
Just kind of bootstrapping it, throwing my money into it when I could. And you said something about fail proof, and what the numbers that we have projected, which are really good, our projections are really, really nice. And the really cool thing about that is that in order to hit those numbers, we would only have to actually attract 10% of what we're capable of housing as far as customers.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
nice and conservative. Nice
Yeah.
and conservative.
And so, and one of the things that I did is I overestimated our costs and way underestimated our income. And even with that, we still came out 40% in the black with our
Wow.
projections.
And if these are with you know, the creme de la creme of equipment providers, uh, ancillary service providers, and that sort of thing, as any business, it gives you the room to kind of pivot where you can then say, okay, well, if we need to kind of bootstrap this thing and sort of step it down a bit to still provide the experience and in a way that's viable for the consumer, but also allows us to, increase the profit margins, you can certainly do that.
Hmm.
Um,
Our margin for
yeah,
error is huge.
yeah. Well, it's a very, you see, you're dealing with, you're customer facing. The business is all customer facing. So you're going to have to deal with a lot of the fickle nature of humans. Okay, so and of course accidents and stuff like that. This is active entertainment, active enjoyment. There's going to be so much, but then of course there's so much to do planning wise. Have you gone through? I know you have, but just for the sake of anyone who's listening who thinks, oh,
Hmm.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to wrap myself together a concept and throw it at a lease agreement or a real estate opportunity, and I want to start raising money too. There's also things like permits that we need to concern ourselves with,
Hmm.
health and safety regulations, and
Yep.
number of people allowed in a space at any given time. And there's so many things there that you kind of have to factor in. And I know you've been working on that in your business plan too. Like, why don't you speak to some of the boring
Yeah.
stuff that is necessary?
Yeah. So some of the boring stuff is, one, our insurance is going to be outrageous. I mean, we're looking at almost 300,000 a month for the different liabilities, umbrella, protection insurance, to make sure that not only we're protected, but that we can offer assurances to our consumers that you will be safe. We're taking every precaution to make sure that these attractions are exciting but also very safe. But in the event, because like you said, we're dealing with humans, in the event that something happens, everyone's covered and protected. The particular space that we're looking at, according to fire codes, at 175,000 square feet, we can have up to 9,846 people in there at one given time. And that's counting the different spaces in there. But the numbers we're rolling with are only if we had 5,000 people for the day.
Wow,
So we could
wow.
theoretically, for every hour of the day, be 4 times what we calculated for the day. And that's what I was saying. Like, our potential is so much bigger than what we're estimating. because one of the things we're shooting for is a zero wait time facility, so that if you came in and you wanted to play airsoft, we're going to have 3 arenas. If all of them are active, you just put your name down, and as soon as their mission is about 15 minutes in, you go into your briefing, you do this, but in that 15 minutes, if you wanted to, you could go play a game of pinball, because there's plenty. Our retro facility is right behind the airsoft, and you can go play a quick game of Pac-Man. So you don't ever have to just stand in line and wait for something, unlike the other amusement parks. Now, indoor arcades are usually a pretty solid zero wait facility, but as far as amusement centers go, like if you were to go to Disneyland or Six Flags or any of those other amusement parks, you're looking at a 2 to 3 hour wait for a 2 to 5 minute experience. With us, because of the way we're building it, we want to make sure that if you can't do that specific attraction right then, you can put your name down, but you can still go and do other things within the facility, so you're not just standing in line twiddling your thumbs. And all
Yeah.
of that
Have you,
can be managed from the app that we have in development. Um,
how much of that came from you having this idea, this concept, and then starting to look at like the rules and regulations, what's permissible, what's not, and having to kind of mold your business around it, and then start seeing other opportunities like, okay, well, if they have to do that, if we have limited there, then we can create this experience, and that will help mitigate, and that will help people with their journey and experience with us. Like, how much of that do you think has played in?
I would say probably 30% of it, because one of the things that I did was in person research, where I went to my competitors and I took part in what they offer. So I did a lot of cost analysis for what my competitors are charging and what you get out of it. So these things that I'm talking about as far as like time frame, cost wise, I've experienced them all myself, which is how I'm so confident in what we're solving. But as far as like rules and regulations, I have spent, I mean, countless hours over the last 6 years, that if you put all of the hours together, you could have, if I recorded it all, you could have me sitting in front of a computer doing research for probably 2 to 3 weeks without leaving that computer, just on research for rules and regulations, safety requirements, insurance requirements, fire code safety, all the fun, boring stuff that goes into how do I keep my consumers safe and how do I stay within the legal lines.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. The reason why I brought that up is I've found that I've had to do that a lot with businesses that
Mm-hmm.
I work with, and I wanted to know because a lot of companies they do that, they end up changing their almost their entire model based on like, you know, legislation that they weren't aware of, or a
Mm-hmm.
rule, or a permit that they need, or this or that, and so you end up kind of like, you know, pivoting, bobbing and weaving as a business and kind of just making it work. And I know that that's important. Um, and clearly, like, or you can do a ton load of research, you know, beforehand and
Yep.
know exactly what's coming. That's the other way to do it. Everyone who's
Yep.
listening, I mean, this is it,
And
man. Like, as an entrepreneur, you've got to be, you've got to be passionate about it, and I can see that you are. You've got to be willing to go the distance and pivot if need be.
right.
Um, and understand almost you have to be an expert. You have to be. I always find that when you're getting involved with something as deep as this, especially when you're asking for money from other people, you've got to be an expert in the biz.
Yep.
It's clear that you've done the research. It really is. So to entrepreneurs out there, take those notes, and for the investors out there, you know, watch this space, man, because there's a lot of potential. You
So much
know,
potential.
yeah, I think there's if almost if you think about the three different things that I said, if it's going to be the prepay, and then you've got the you know, you've got prepaid, you've got the small siloed events, which are just straight profit driven opportunities. uh I think there's opportunities there for interest lending,
Mm-hmm.
interest based lending, just like you know, directly investors can help you in that respect. Essentially that's your convertible notes again with the with the cap raise for a lease, at least your initial plan, right, with the 7.5
Mm-hmm.
mil, uh, and then straight up with the full private placement, for you know, tying in a real estate opportunity. And there's a lot there. I mean, we're
Mm-hmm.
figuring it out. The marketing strategy for that, how to acquire those investors, just find them, get them interested, kind of have them float through to your business. But again, we're just kind of looking at the way in which we're going to do it and how it's going to be structured to
Right.
make it as opportunistic for the investor, but also in a way that allows and makes sure that you can actually do the job and build the thing out.
Right.
So it's kind of like running two businesses. You've got like marketing and strategy for like concept itself and building out the opportunity, and then you've got to think, okay, how am I going to go ahead and build an opportunity that's also going to be an attractive thing for an investor? Because
Right.
it's two different target buyers, right? It's two different target markets, and you kind of have
Hmm.
to do this sort of balancing act and play in between. It's
Right.
really interesting business. Andrew, hey, thank you for taking the time here. Do you have any tips that you want to share for anyone that's maybe in your position thinking about starting a business or and looking for investment?
I would say find people who do this for a living, because Saf, you are much smarter than I am in the capital raising side. Because I've been doing this for 6 years, and I've only been able to, come up with 150,000, which is considerable. But I would say be humble enough to find somebody smarter than you to mentor you and take you along the way, because pride will kill any business idea. I
Yeah.
myself have a management team that even though I founded the idea, I go to them anytime there's anything and I'm like, hey guys, what do you think? Like, we need to talk this through. I don't be the only cook in the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't say I'm that smart, but I just say the longer you do something, the better you get at it. And I've been at this for a
Hmm.
minute, so
Yeah.
it's it's pretty. I've had the highs and the lows, made the mistakes, the catastrophic mistakes in my past. But you just there's a sequence to things. Sometimes it's not actually as complicated. It's just I've done it for longer, so I know what could be done as far as packaging a deal. I know how to market it and to get it in front of the right people, and that's really it's not actually that much more complicated than that. It's just another type of sales funnel. Really, it's just
Right.
targeting a different market and knowing how to package something. So that's your offer creation, where you've spent and obsessed about how your business could be presented to the consumer, to the people you're targeting who are going to be your customers. It's just a different lens that you have to look at the business through, and I'm just more used to looking at companies through my lens than you are. That's the
Hmm.
only difference.
Yep.
But yeah, so
Well, I
experience
need
does
your
matter for
lens.
sure. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very much. And
Absolutely.
by the way, I think you should document the journey. Like just go through the steps. Like I think everyone's doing it now, but not enough people are doing it like consistently. I mean, you're at the very beginning. This is an opportunity for you to kind of showcase your entire journey
Yeah.
through it. That I'll probably get a lot of people on board too.
And, and who knows, maybe 20 years from now, like the Nike movie, they'll make a movie about ACG.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe.
Get yourself like a Disneyland level location, multiple locations around the US and the world. You never know. Could be.
Right? It could be.
All right. Thanks for coming on, my man.
Absolutely. It's been a genuine pleasure.